Can you do the intro this time?
Yep. Hello, Internet. Welcome to IPython Jupyter dev meeting for June 16th, 2015. Get underway. We don't have much on the agenda. The first note actually comes from Matthias, who's not here today. Right now we're serving HTML on NBViewer as kind of a pass-through to GitHub, among other things. The reason, and the example he gives is you can basically post a web page anywhere, and it will be served on NBViewer. And this is probably not what this can be confusing or surprising.
Yeah.
Matthias suggested maybe we should put. And so the reason for this code path is for serving for like local references to images. So for instance, if you have in a markdown cell an image that is sitting next to the notebook,
yes,
you can link to that relative URL, which means that because we can redirect for URLs. We could redirect for URL and URLs for regular web stuff, and asking for things that aren't notebooks, but we can't for GitHub because GitHub, raw GitHub sets the MIME type to text plain on everything.
Yeah, that's right.
Which means SVGs and stuff don't work if you try to link to them. So, but I think we can special case HTML to put it in that hidden frame.
Yeah, I think rendering HTML on NBViewer is going too far. I don't think it should.
Should we not render it at all? Should we render it in an iframe, or should we just redirect to it?
We should redirect.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think. Yeah.
Just redirect. Yeah, because that page never happens. Because unlike okay, that's easy enough.
Okay.
And we actually don't have much on the agenda. We just checking in on 4.0 stuff.
I have two items I'd like to dynamically add to the agenda.
I will be your keyboard.
So the first is pertains to notebooks in Sphinx documentation. And last week when we had our dev meeting, we talked about actually version controlling the NB converted REST files along with the raw notebook files in our documentation. And the reason was that we were guessing that Pandoc would be difficult to install on Read the Docs. And Min, you did this experiment over the weekend showing that actually Read the Docs has Pandoc.
Yeah. And
so that particular reason goes away. I think the only other reason I can think of for us wanting to pre-convert and version control the REST file, the restructured text file, is that it is a little bit easier to code review.
Hang on, Fernando's just arriving, so we've got some. 1 second.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
No.
Hello.
I'm late.
Okay.
The other reason is that plain text files like restructured text is easier to code review than the notebook files, and so it may be useful to have both the notebook and the .rst file in version control, even though we could build the rest dynamically on Read the Docs.
Yeah. We just need diffs of rendered notebooks, right?
We do.
Yes, we do.
we do want the nice rendered diffs at some point.
So do you want to start, since we have all the tools and everything on Read the Docs, I think we can, in the future where we've got notebook diffs rendered on GitHub,
yeah.
I think we definitely don't need to track REST. Do we want to start tracking REST and see how annoying tracking generated files is, or do we want to start not tracking REST and unpleasant to review it?
Yeah.
And it's not hard to go back and forth between those two, right? So
yeah.
We can,
Why don't you pick Brian, since you're the one who's doing the tooling right now?
That's an inaccurate statement, unfortunately. I'm sort of 50-50, honestly.
Yeah.
I do find that code reviewing notebook-based documentation is tough.
Yeah.
And in my experience, honestly, if there's notebook-based documentation, it's usually easier to just merge it and iterate than to actually review.
I would say if we want to be able to review small diffs, because we don't have diff, we don't have. Let's face it, we don't have diff reviewing of notebooks right now. Let's merge. Let's include the REST files for now.
So we can review that, even though we'll rebuild them on Read the Docs.
Yeah. That's my inclination right now.
Okay.
Kurt? And what was your second point?
So I think it would be useful to admit, I think this is what you have a draft of, useful to have a more or less empty project that shows how to integrate notebooks with Sphinx and Read the Docs.
Yeah.
And I think, at the end of your conf.py file, you had the logic to walk the tree and do the conversions. I think we should put that in a separate .py file, and then also add a target to the make file so that people can do that
make
easily.
Files don't work on Read the Docs, but make files are relevant to Read the Docs.
Well, but to have people be able to do that locally to check their stuff.
Yeah. The figuring out what the right way to get the preliminary step to run on Read the Docs is something that I'm not sure what it is. All I know is I know they run conf.py, so I put some code.
Exactly.
Definitely not the way you should do it, but it was the way I knew that would work on Read the Docs.
Okay.
Yeah, I can do those things.
And then the second dynamic agenda item I had was the T-shirts.
Yep.
And Cameron has a draft of a T-shirt up on the Jupyter design repo, and some of the questions we need to answer. One is how many T-shirts and of what sizes, and sort of what, like, are we planning on just buying T-shirts for ourselves? Are we going to sell T-shirts to the general public? Are we going to give away T-shirts to the general public, etc.?
That is something I haven't the foggiest idea about.
Can we sell T-shirts? Is that something we can?
Yeah, we can. I don't know if we would be able to have it set up by SciPy. That's something that we could either do through NumFocus or through Cal Poly.
Okay.
And the cost per T-shirt. So I asked Leah about what company they've used. They've used Custom Ink for that, and she told me the particular type of T-shirt that they've been using. And with the current design that Cameron had sketched out and those T-shirts, the cost is about $9 a T-shirt.
All
Yeah, I mean, I would say, yeah, if we could sell them at like very minimal, I wouldn't say at profit, but like I don't know.
Yeah, but it's expressing support for the project.
Yeah, for $10 or $10, $15. Like,
and the shipping and stuff if they're doing them online as opposed to buying them at sci-fi.
At sort of
so maybe close to 15 or something.
At cost recovery kind of order of magnitude cost recovery, so that it doesn't become a
I mean, I think on
a money pit, but
on the place that we were looking at, like, you can, it's actually set up so you can put the design up and kind of select what profit margin you want, and they will sell it for you and give you whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be great. But I guess the question is whether to bring a batch of them physically to Sci-Fi, because that's an opportunity to have a bundle of them.
Yeah, I'm mostly for now thinking of how we want to do it for Sci-Fi, because that's immediate. Well, Sci-Fi and PyData Seattle.
Yeah.
Giving away T-shirts is definitely the norm. I don't think I've bought a T-shirt in a very long time.
Yeah, at a conference, that's a giveaway thing. Online, at a conference, I think it's fine to buy a bundle and consider them to be a promotional expense, and I think we can do that.
Okay.
I would include a range of sizes and a fraction in a women's cut, if possible.
Yep.
I don't know, estimate.
Big Sci-Fi, like 300 people?
Sci-Fi is probably about 300 people, yeah.
I think it's more like 4 or 5.
I mean, that's the reference number.
Yeah.
But,
I don't think that we need to make one for every Sci-Fi FFP.
But we probably shouldn't make more than, I don't know, like
Well, maybe we should just for this year focus on the T-shirts for us. Maybe we should have our convert T-shirts. Then people.
Do we have tutorials?
Yeah.
Yes.
2, 1.
At least one.
How many? Do we know how many people signed up?
I don't know.
So
I would assume that we're probably going to be.
that's a nice kind of raffle surprise prize, is to have for the tutorial attendees, not raffle, but like basically order of magnitude make them for the tutorial people, and maybe bring a few extras for the sprints or something, and sort of. So rather than try to make order of magnitude 500, make order of magnitude tutorials plus sprints kind of thing.
So maybe a couple hundred.
I think the tutorials.
Yeah. Might be even less than a couple hundred. Might be even more like 100.
Yeah. And figure out how to, and maybe ask the Sci-Fi folks what the distribution of sizes is typically.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
They already buy T-shirts for that crowd every year.
Yeah.
That, and also Leah would know that as well from PyData.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, do we want to have separate developer T-shirts? So Cameron has a prototype that has the word developer, and the idea was to have sort of special T-shirts for us. Do we want to do that? And if so, I will probably need to collect the sizes of everyone who wants one.
I think that's a fine thing to do. I would personally say for them not to be T-shirts, but.
So you would rather have like a polo or something, or?
Yeah, I mean I don't wear T-shirts.
Actually, we were going to do tank tops, you know.
Yeah, that's good. That's definitely what we should. Well, it is Austin in July, so it's not entirely different. Although the AT&T Center is freezing.
Yeah, maybe Jupyter swimming kit.
So if we made T-shirts, I would not want specialized developer shirts personally, but I do like the idea of polos.
Okay, I will look into that and see what.
Especially if it's minimal, like it's just the logo in the corner. I'll wear that all the time.
In the standard polo way of, well, I mean, if there's a thing right there now, just as like a Jupyter logo right there.
Okay, so it
simple.
sounds like for just T-shirts alone, it's not worth it. But if we can get some sort of nice polo, that would be a good thing.
Yeah, I would wear that.
Yeah.
Okay, and do you, if we're thinking about wearing these daily when we go to conferences, would everyone want more than one?
Oh, maybe.
Let's make a first round of one, and let's see how they turn out.
Okay.
Let's do a dry run. Let's do a dry run. Let's MVP this.
Yeah,
right.
Because if we start aiming for enough that we can wear like one a day at conferences, then
Yeah, I can bring a suitcase full of Jupyter polos.
Let's make a dry run and see how they would turn out.
Okay.
Also, we need to be happy with the company, with the manufacturer, whatever, with the logos.
Right.
So let's make a dry run, see how they go.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. My goal is to try to order the T-shirts next day or two to get them by SciPy. The other question about the T-shirt design is so the current prototype of the design on the back of it has the logos of a number of programming languages that we support, and the question is what languages logos do we want to put there, and then also what any particular ordering. And my thought would be, because we're not putting the names of the languages, to pick languages whose logos are going to be pretty recognizable to some fraction of people. And for example, on the current Jupyter.org website, we have a number of logos there that I would have to honestly use Google image search to find out what programming language it is. And I just don't think that's particularly helpful.
The onion.
Can you turn around?
I think the onion is Perl.
Really?
I had to search for it yesterday.
Wow.
The other one that I didn't know was the butterfly.
Butterfly's kind of
Onion. They're the pearls of the soil.
That's great.
yeah, onions, Perl.
The onion is
Julia, Python, R, Haskell, Ruby, Calico, F#, Lua, Erlang, Pi, and Spark.
Yeah, I really don't know how to make that decision.
I mean, my thought would be to look through one of the lists of top programming languages and pick languages from the top 25 that we support.
Yeah, although I would do that a little different because, well, in general, I think Julia and Haskell should be there.
Oh, yeah.
Given the relationship of the project, and I might even say the same about Calico. Even though people won't recognize the logo, I think it's a good, depending on how many we're doing, right?
Yeah, it doesn't really matter if people recognize all the logos. It's like there are lots of things.
Yeah, but in some ways, if we're doing like 4, we want to maximize their recognizability and impact. But if we're doing 25, then the main thing we're communicating is
lots.
All the thing.
Yeah.
Right.
I think the current prototype has either 12 or 9.
Yeah, I think it was 12 or maybe 16. Yeah, but in that vicinity.
It's
yeah.
12. I mean,
okay.
The current prototype is just copying the logos from the main Jupyter.
Can you put it back on that image?
Yeah. Yes. Well. Yeah. So I do think we need to think a bit more carefully about what to put.
I don't mind that prototype at all.
Yeah. No. The only one is I realized the Julia logo really doesn't translate to moving color very well.
I was going to say the Julia one loses badly in black and white.
Yeah.
In It's not even, yeah, the Julia one is really meant to be in full color because, wow, it really doesn't translate to 3 dots. But, oh well, they chose it.
What?
They may have encountered this before. They may have an idea for what to do, like, right? Because their circles are actually two-toned,
Two-tone, yeah.
so they may prefer hollow, or there's a good chance that they've encountered this before.
Yeah. So if people can add comments to that GitHub issue about the selection and ordering of languages, because we really need to decide that in the next sort of, I would say by Thursday at the latest, we need to make the order.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if it's a 3x grid, then the top 3 should probably be Julia, Python, R.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's.
Yep.
That's a good idea. It helps. Yep. It helps echo the Jupyter thingy. Yeah.
Yep. Completely agree.
Well, yeah. I'm personally a big fan of R. It's probably not. It's probably not mainstream enough to do.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, but we'll put comments on that issue.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yep.
Great job,
Great.
by the way. You did that. Thank you so much. I haven't seen that issue.
Yeah,
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah.
It's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. Should Brian's students just introduce yourselves briefly?
Yes.
But can I have a second to put my glasses on so I can actually see one? Cater to the old man in the room.
Yeah.
Wow, the world looks so much different now.
I'm with you, Fernando.
Well, my name's Cameron Olson. I am a second-year graphic communication major at Cal Poly, and I did the T-shirt. I'm the graphic guy here.
Nice to meet you, Cameron.
I was the one who was doing that.
Hi, I'm Ryan. I've met Sylvan before. Went to the, what was it called? Yeah, the Bloomberg Hackathon last year. I'm a physics major at Cal Poly. I've been working with Ryan for about a year.
Ryan, you said, right?
Yeah, Ryan.
Nice to meet you, Ryan.
Hi, I'm Simon.
I'm sorry, it's breaking up a little bit. Could you get a little bit closer to the microphone?
Yeah, hi, I'm Simon. I'm a recent graduate of computer science.
Much better. Simon?
Yeah. And I'm just going to be probably working on front end.
Nice to meet you.
Welcome, Cal Poly folks.
Welcome. It's great to have you guys on the project. Very excited.
Yeah, very excited to work on it.
Who is this person? Who led the riff traffic?
I seem to remember, like, on some document at some point there were 4 students listed, and we've only met 3 of them.
Oh, yeah, Auberon is not in the room, I presume, today?
Yeah, unfortunately, Auberon has jury duty down in San Diego this week.
Fun. Okay. We'll meet him next week.
Yep.
T-shirts, I think, right?
Yep.
So then the question is, are we?
Did we lose voice?
No, I can still hear you. I think it's bids.
Oh, okay.
Lost bid.
Yeah, everybody else is clear, but this is pretty.
Yeah, the Berkeley connection's bad again. Brian's back though.
Hi.
Once we're back, I'll enter you as well too, because he happened to ping me, and then I remembered to add him in.
Oh, nice.
But Will, the hydrogen developer.
Ah,
All right. page solves the problem.
Hey guys, sorry, we disappeared for a second. Sorry.
Connection.
The joys of the
difficulties.
internet. Never mind, carry on. We were talking about docs for 4.0, sorry.
Okay.
So, one question is, are we planning to have all this things integration of notebooks done prior to 4.0, or is that kind of something that's still in progress, and we'll have the kind of separate syncs and notebooks?
I think it would be great if we could at least just move the notebooks into the right repos and start to build them, even if the level of integration for 4.0 doesn't go beyond that.
Okay, so just have them in the Sphinx tree, even if they're not connected to anything.
Yeah, and have them in the Sphinx tree of the correct repos, I think is.
Yeah, I think they're pretty close to in the right place.
Just move the files over.
Yeah. I think most, if not all, of the notebooks are in the right repos already.
Okay. Yeah. No, and the main thing is, I think that will enable to start to improve the documentation of each repo incrementally after that in a way that makes sense for that repo.
Okay. That makes sense. Is there anything else? We still haven't. There's still some. I'll get that later. The next thing is releasing tradelets. I think tradelets is pretty much ready to. What's in between us and releasing tradelets 4.0? Thomas?
So I have one PR open that's just adding a bit more docs, which I think should be fine. Sylvain has a PR open, which I'm communicating with him about. Yeah, it's just kind of, I would like to get tradelets out so that we can start moving up the stack and getting more stuff done. Yeah. Does anyone know of anything else that needs to happen in tradelets before?
On my side, tradelets are fine. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, so the PR that is open is really a small thing. It's very minor. So if you either you're fine with it or not, but otherwise, I'm glad to the current state.
Yeah. And otherwise, Sylvain, are you happy seeing it released?
Sorry, I didn't hear you. Can you repeat that?
Otherwise, you're happy with it being released as it is right now, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. We can try to get tradelets out, I think.
Yeah.
So one other thing, I'm going to keep working on the Jupyter docs landing pages, and part of what will be there is the quick start documentation for the whole shebang. And are we still planning on doing a Jupyter meta package that would pip install everything?
I believe that has been the consensus.
Okay. So, and part of what we'll have to work out then is the translation of our current quick install docs that are on IPython.org to that new future where things are based on the Jupyter meta package and still Conda, Anaconda, and Canopy type stuff.
Yeah, I think the IPython installation page can be a lot shorter because we go in detail into into several dependencies, most of which are just regular dependencies now that you shouldn't care about, and we also have many more dependencies.
Yeah.
The installation for IPython is just to install IPython.
Yeah.
And then no tokens.
Okay.
To Jupyter. Great. Yeah, I think that kind of covers where we are with the 4.0 stuff. Kyle, you want to talk about hydrogen?
Yeah, so I at least wanted to introduce Will. Will's been working on Hydrogen, which is a plugin for Atom. And basically, I mean, it's just running any of the Jupyter kernels, but within Atom itself, inline in the editor. So that that ends up needing a whole bunch of Node written to like adapt to the same Jupyter spec. So the same kind of like problems and overall stuff that I needed for Sidecar. And then this falls right in line with something that was on the mailing list today, as well as someone that chimed in on my Sidecar repo and stuff that Carissa McKelvey was asking for. And generally speaking, people are wanting to build stuff using our building blocks, but in Node, so that they can do it through Electron and Atom apps. Like in Carissa's case, she actually wants to try to build an interface for the notebook, but as a standalone, as does this other person. I think a lot of that's just going to be kind of like base level functionality that's about figuring out where the paths are for stuff, launching kernels from kernel specs, like kernel managers and stuff like that. Because all the messaging protocol has already been done in another package. But I at least wanted to bring it up to see what you think and let Will talk a little bit about things.
So I think it makes perfect sense to have the machinery. I think if people just want like a standalone version of the Notebook app, I think we should strongly encourage them not to rewrite it in Node.
Yeah, I think that would be a huge, because that's a fast-moving target, and we have no plans of stability and no intention of making that easy to keep track.
Yeah, for things like hydrogen, it makes perfect sense to have all the machinery to do it. But yeah, if people want standalone notebook applications, I think for the time being, at least, we should tell them this is the notebook application. If you want to make it standalone, make it standalone based on that.
Yeah, and it should call Python.
Yeah.
Even in Node, it should call Python. And as much as possible, kind of in every case that it is feasible, re-implementing in Node should probably be avoided, and calling out to Python should be preferable. That's not going to be feasible in every case, and maybe simple kernel manager and stuff is not. That's not a whole lot of work. Providing the web server and REST API and stuff, I think, is work that nobody should do. I would strongly encourage nobody to ever try to do that.
Especially because, as I pointed out in this mailing list thread this morning, like, we're planning to make the notebook server a bunch more complicated in order to store notebook models.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think I mean, making the static files available, that's not tricky, right? That's just a path I think some of those things are, this is how you get from Python, this is how you get the path for where those static files are. And if that's all you, that's fine, because that's pretty much what you need for Sidecar, right?
Yeah, it's to access wherever the assets are for like a widget.
Although widget, that's really going to require Python, honestly, because of the the registering paths, because the widget JavaScript isn't in the same place as the rest of it, and the whole notebook extension loading stuff means you can dynamically be loading resources from any number of places, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you would need to re-implement an awful lot of Python even just to get that. You got, in the case of one custom widget that inherits from widgets, that's at least 3 places to get resources from. Now you can, that is defined by a search path, basically, and you can get that search path from the Jupyter package.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that complicated, and finding if you can kind of locate resources. I think that making static locating static resources is not too complicated, but it's significantly more than just one path. And simple launching kernel specs is similarly pretty simple.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think where you should definitely stop is if supporting, trying to ape the notebook REST API. You start implementing part of that, you're definitely gone too far.
Yeah, so I think in this case, this is not people wanting to make the full web server. They wanted in a standalone client side. And I mean, maybe I should diverge from even mentioning that people talked about the notebook, because my primary interest is like just the base levels. I'm like echoing all funny. I don't know where from. Just the base pieces to get the patterns, which I did in 2 ways originally. I called out to the Python. That ended up being kind of ugly. And then I just ported it all to Node, which was clean and not bad because it's really not that much code. It's just like adapt to whatever the spec is for Jupyter and track that. And that even includes, tracking where stuff is installed in .IPython, if those paths are available. And then Will did the stuff for actually launching the kernel specs and writing a custom kernel manager for Hydrogen. And then there's no running web server.
Why not? Why not just talk to our existing web server for all that? Because all that stuff has to be installed anyways, so it's not an installation question.
Oh, totally. No, they still have to install the entire setup.
Yeah, so I guess why not launch either the notebook web server or another server and talk to that.
And then talk to it, and then, so I guess, you could launch one on the side, work with the APIs directly, and then, and if you launch it, you can launch it with whatever configuration you want for locking it down, and then you get direct access to those kernels, and you can either do it over the WebSockets, or you can actually get direct access to those kernels over over 0MQ. That does make the packaging a little bit easier. If people already have it installed, we don't have to deal with this Node.jip rebuilds of 0MQ, because that
is not a great.
Go ahead.
0MQ on Node is not a great situation, as I understand
pretty
it.
bad.
Yeah.
Talking over the WebSocket might be that might be an advantage of doing that.
Yeah, and also, I think it's important to note that over time, the complexity of our existing web server is going to increase to handle things like real-time collaboration, presence, multi-user presence, and the real-time collaboration will span not just the notebook, but everything from the text editor to cell objects to all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it may be that alternate front ends, yes, they want kernels, but they also want some of that other stuff as well.
In the case of Hydrogen in particular, having all of the rest of that stuff also as part of the web server would actually be a reason not to use the web server, honestly. Because all Hydrogen is really trying to do is run your code, make that as fast and as lightweight as possible, and not basically like using Jupyter as a completely invisible backend for this. And added complexity there is really only a downside.
Yeah, but in some ways, from the notebook server is significantly less complex than re-implementing a bunch of it in Node. But yeah, so if the target is really like the QB console, like it's just a kernel and then rich wrapper stuff, and And the Qt console has the benefit of all that Java stuff doesn't make any sense, so we don't try. Whereas in the case of Atom, you're actually running a web browser, so it makes sense to try to get all the web stuff. But that honestly, that means re-implementing a lot of stuff. Yeah, I mean, if you want to re-implement a bunch of the Python, I would, in some ways, I would feel like a project like this should put pressure on us to make better command line APIs in some ways.
It's a very interesting discussion for me because it's sort of really forcing us to think of where the line is drawn between what is the boundary between when we talk about the protocol that represents interacting with the output of a kernel, where output of a kernel may include live interaction even with live widgets, right?
Yeah. Although we have specifically said that widgets are a notebook feature with no intention of supporting that in other formats. That widgets are fundamentally a notebook.
You mean I'm not quite sure what we mean by that, though, in the sense that like a Thebe on O'Reilly totally supports widgets, but it's not really notebooks.
Yeah, I mean, I think what this is forcing us is basically a question.
But it is, I mean, so yeah, sorry, it is cell. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's the point is where I think the distinction is cell, right? Blob of code, blob of output. This atomic.
Can see that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm drawing just to help myself think. If I'm not drawing anything to me, I think better when I'm on a whiteboard. I'm totally addicted to whiteboards. So all I'm drawing is blob of code. Imagine a cell in the notebook, right? Blob of code, blob of output. That very very simple unit, right? The cell that contains a little bit of input and a little bit of output that goes together, right? Which hydrogen represents. By the way, Will, I have it installed. It's beautiful, awesome, great job. I'm probably going to use it as a demo next week at my little workshop in the UK to illustrate precisely the value of the entire architecture. That is the kind of thing that could potentially be valuable in many other contexts beyond the notebook as a document-oriented abstraction, right? Because I think the cell, as Brian just pointed out, the cell appears in context like TD, like your old single cell, the single cell demo, which was the precursor to TD, right? Those were all entities that didn't have the notebook as a document, right? And so if we say these are things, and then there's this big bright line here that divides the document, right? And if we say the document is where now things are different, right? And yes, the app that represents documents is where things get complicated, where you have real-time collaboration, where you have user presence, where you have commenting, where you have things like, oh, I'm going to run classes, I'm going to do teaching, I'm going to do a document. What may represent a homework set is where I have a student who has turned it in, a grader who has graded it and who has annotated it with feedback and all of those things that really I think we're completely justified in saying forget it. Right? We're not going to separate that, and our server architecture is going to be very complicated because it has to support all those things. That's fine. I do think that this little thing that says, oh, this can go together with that, but it may still have in here buttons and sliders and checkboxes and whatnot and little interactive things. This may still fall on the other side of the fence.
Yeah.
That was kind of the old side of the fence where we meant it to be lightweight and kind of the hydrogen, the atom, the Qt console, where we want it to be sort of protocol level, wire level, lightweight. And so now I'm not saying we have all of our abstractions cut and sliced and diced the way we want them to. But I do think this discussion is forcing us to to realize that this line needs to be drawn better.
Yep.
I think at the very least, we can selfishly assume that the widgets are only going to work in an HTML context.
Yes.
Definitely. Yeah,
Okay,
definitely.
that absolutely.
Yeah.
That line, that we did say a while back, and I'm completely okay saying we will not try to say that our widget layer is somehow a declarative abstracted over GUI toolkits, and you're going to have widgets over Qt and WX and Cocoa and TK and who knows what else. No, we did say a while back we're going to bind ourselves to an HTML JavaScript over JavaScript plus backend.
Yeah.
That is okay.
Yeah. The front end has a DOM.
Yes.
And JavaScript.
Yes. That is okay. What I think is not okay is for us to say that our widgets are completely bound to being part of our entire document-heavy, user-heavy, collaboration-heavy application side. Or that they're kind of on the inside the prison fence, if you will.
Yeah.
And also, I think as we move towards thinking about different expressions of this architecture, such as dashboards, and
that was exactly what I was about to say. Yep.
Yeah.
That was my next sentence.
I mean, it's very likely we and other people will have web pages that only have widgets and no code at all.
Yep. Yeah, that was my next sentence. Absolutely.
Yep. And so I think this comes down to some of the pieces in the notebook, and like clearly this is not for 4.0, but like future thought is.
If you say this is for 4.0, Thomas will hop through the internet and rip
No,
it
I'm
out.
just for the future. Like, no, because we need 4 out soon. For the future, we want to start like decoupling some of the JavaScript that can be used across those, right? So that the doesn't have to bundle pretty much all of the IPython JavaScript to work appropriately.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, that's like the future there, where people will be able to take these as mere building blocks, and then we'll see a lot of things come out.
That has always been the intent. Yeah, that has always been the intent. I think even since the days of the single cell example, we always meant to say this is meant to show that these libraries are intended to be decouplable, even if the reality doesn't match the intent as well as it should.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I apologize. I just cut you off. That was super rude. Sorry.
I'm good. So that was it. I wanted to bring it up. A lot of this, like, I've been on the side talking to other people, so.
Yeah, yeah, and there's a lot of cool stuff going on. I think that's definitely super cool.
Yeah.
But a lot of what makes it tricky is a lot of the reimplementation pieces are not the stable pieces. Like loading the kernel spec and running, that's stable. That writing a kernel manager shouldn't be that big deal. I think that's fine because the kernel spec is documented, and frankly, you can write your own kernel manager API that is whatever you want around a kernel spec JSON file, right?
Yep, those are easy.
Yeah, it's the JavaScript, the web server to JavaScript stuff, even how JavaScript gets on the page is stuff that we simply haven't cited yet. So if you're working on re-implementing that, that means you're going to be working on re-implementing that pretty much constantly for a long time.
Yeah.
Because it's going to keep. And that's the part that is that we are specifically committing to that not being stable right now. Not that we're not committing to it being. Not that we're failing. Not that we're just avoiding promising that it's stable. We are promising that it's unstable.
You're talking about just for the comms layer for the widgets.
not even that, just even the mechanism for getting JavaScript on the page from kernel side stuff.
Oh, I handle that. It's fine. It works. It works okay in Sidecar as long as they're not expecting a notebook on the other side of the DOM.
And loading. So it's the custom JavaScript, right? So if I've got my custom widget that has defined its own JavaScript, which may come from a static resource and be loaded. And
yeah, so I just that won't display.
Yeah, so that's
and because I know that stuff's like not stable, not even touching it.
Yeah, and I think that's the better way to go, is to say I support the vanilla baseline stuff, but the custom JavaScript, I just say, upstream hasn't decided how this is even going to work yet, so I'm not going to try. I think that's a more sensible place to be right now, unless you want to spend a lot of time just paying attention to the stuff we're changing, because none of how that stuff is considered kind of public API stuff now that people should want to re-implement. That's the part that that is tricky. And making it easier to, like, we added the Jupyter paths thing, right? I think, Kyle, did you see that? Grabbing the search paths that Jupyter is using.
Yep.
It's now just one command call. Adding a few things like that to make this kind of stuff easier. What?
I'm sorry. Are you saying the core Jupyter paths is now?
Yeah. Yeah, because that is the notebook. I mean, that is where all that stuff comes from. So things like that should help saying, all right, what's my path that I need to look in?
Oh, yeah, no, so this is exactly what I ported over to Node. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's up to date with the current commit on master. And so that's the one I put in interact/Jupyter paths.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess if the only interfaces you need to knock out are finding static resources and kernel specs, right? Then you're not doing any of the web server stuff. You're not doing any of the REST API stuff. And that should be feasible, I think.
Yeah, because I mean that code doesn't change that.
Not counting custom JavaScript, but.
I mean, technically, I could load custom JavaScript on the page. It would just be bad and wrong and not find anything.
Yeah, it's like, because we're recommending that some things write NB server extensions so that they actually provide Python code to make extra resources available. And I don't think there's any reason to change that. But anything that depends on that is probably not going to work in another context. But those are probably for more advanced notebooky features that's going to actually come up.
Awesome.
So yeah, if there are little things like, if the Jupyter paths output is missing, or maybe if there isn't enough information from IPython, like if you need to get some information from IPython, we can add little things like the Jupyter paths entry point to make that kind of stuff easier. So if you encounter stuff like that, let us know, and we can try to move some of the impedance.
Yeah, so I think the hard part is probably going to be straddling versions that people are on between IPython 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. And so, like,
kernel spec.
You actually cover that in the Jupyter paths piece. But if we go ahead and add it, if we had a decent output to like a main module in Jupyter Core that can spit out JSON that we can read, that would be a decent, like, yeah. I mean,
but
for us to just go ahead and bring in whatever the current stuff is, if they have it.
you mean in addition to the JSON entry point that is already there?
A different one? I guess I'm missing this.
Sorry, what JSON? What information?
Oh, I'm saying not running a server, but like from the Jupyter Core package.
Yeah, but if you do whatever.
From duck command import. Oh, I see it. Okay.
So if you did like, but I don't remember what it is. It's like Jupyter.
Dash runtime. Oh, okay. Dash JSON. Oh, okay.
It gives you all the search paths as JSON.
Oh, you added the. Oh, okay. Rocket.
Nice.
So that should. If there's something missing from that, we can just add it. And if this kind of thing is what that's for, sort of. So if there's information missing from that, they can, or if it's wrong, especially if it's wrong.
So it doesn't handle the current .IPython user?
It doesn't look in Python because there shouldn't be anything in .IPython. And so it's really a 4.0, like the forward thing.
Yep.
And
we have to shell out to Python anyways to get sys.prefix.
Yeah.
Stuff is installed in there, so we end up shelling out anyways. So, yeah.
Yeah, and you don't have something like that for IPython 3. Right, so you have to hard code the implementation of IPython 3.
Okay.
But I would be inclined to say, try getting Jupyter paths, because that's going to be the way forward for 4.0 and beyond. And if that doesn't exist, get the 3.0. The 3.0 version is going to require hard coding, so I know what 3.0 does, so I'm just going to write that down, because 3.0 is obviously not going to change. That would probably be, and selfishly, I would say build this on kernel specs and not support IPython pre-kernel specs. Right? That would be
simplest.
That would be just the fewest number of different ways to do things to support.
And I like this idea of us having for situations where other languages need to ask us questions, for us to have command line interfaces that return JSON, I think is a really good model.
Yeah, so if you want to open, if either you want to open an issue covering some of the questions you want to ask IPython and or Jupyter that are tedious to ask, we can work on better ways to ask to get answers, whether they're via Python APIs or command line APIs or whatnot. I think that's probably the main action for us to take.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, great.
Sounds good. I can post an issue.
Cool. Thanks.
So something that was not on the agenda, but a quick update from last night. I spoke at the Spark community event. So there was something that was for yesterday, today, and tomorrow. There's the Spark Summit going on in San Francisco, which is the official kind of Spark conference organized by Apache Spark. But the schedule of that event ends at 5 p.m. on Monday. And IBM had organized something called the IBM Apache Spark Community Event, that began at 5 p.m. And I had been invited to speak at a town hall panel. There was a little streamed online interview that had been scheduled at 5. That was from some tech show. And then there was a panel at 7 p.m. And there were going to be some lightning talks and some tech demos and a little kind of cocktail party. It was in downtown San Francisco, and there had been some preparation talks. I wasn't too sure exactly what the scope of the event was, and Brian mentioned to me yesterday afternoon on the phone, he said, "Did you see the announcement from IBM?" And I didn't realize how big this was. It turns out that IBM made a humongous splash yesterday on the press. They're basically going all in on Spark. They're putting a huge amount of resources into Spark. They're opening a giant tech center for Spark. So they're supposedly hiring 3,500 engineers. 3,500 engineers to work on Spark. They're putting huge amounts of money into it. They're opening, partnering with 4 different training centers. They're supposedly going to train 1 million people in the use of Spark for big data. And it's a gigantic company-wide bet. Basically, IBM made a humongous Linux 15 years ago. I mean, they pretty much really changed kind of the course of Linux in the process. And they basically said that this is kind of IBM's next major technology initiative. It turned out that it was far, far bigger than obviously I was aware of. Very interestingly, there's a project there that is based on the notebook, among other things, that uses Spark. So the Spark kernel that is listed, that we have listed on our site, which is developed by the IBM Emerging Technologies group, that is the Scala-based, not PySpark, but Scala-based, is at the center, at the heart of this. It's called the Data Science Studio. It's still in beta, but it's being developed by the Toronto and Brazil team. I met with them. They're very interested in continuing to collaborate. I invited them to join the mailing list, to join our meetings, to kind of continue discussing with us. IBM is doing all of this as open source as part of the Spark. The Spark investment. They're releasing all of their machine learning libraries that they have been developing in-house at IBM as part of the Watson effort. I mean, IBM has poured hundreds of millions of dollars into Watson. They're releasing all that as open source to become part of Spark. And so they said that they would basically continue collaborating with us. So I think we can look forward to some kind of continued relationship with them. They said that over the weekend they have hackathons, a number of hackathons where many of the people who participated in the hackathons ended up using their Data Science Studio product, and that they were extremely happy with the notebook environment. They basically are hosting a customized notebook environment that has sharing and collaboration panels on the side and data hosting on the side. I told them about our plans for refactoring the UI, that they would be interested in talking about that. They were great. They seemed very excited. So I mean, all I have to say is basically that the reception was very good, that it went well, that I think we can look forward to good collaborations and conversations. They said that their plans are to do everything 100% as open source, and that they will join the mailing lists, and that we look forward to talking to them. So yeah, all good news basically.
That's great.
I have conversations with them. They'll be joining the mailing lists, and I'll be shooting some emails to those folks. I have their cards here. So okay, great. Good news.
I've got to run. Thanks for the update, Fernando.
Okay, Brian. Good hearing from you. I think that's the bottom of the agenda. So I think we're done.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
All right. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, everyone. Goodbye, Internet.